gives them the opportunity to find their prey. Very important sensory structures found in all cartilaginous fishes, especially sharks. And you'll see their nares that are going to connect over air through the gills, water through the gills. There's the gill filaments. Check. And so when we look at our fish, we're going to see that one major adaptation is an operculum to cover over their gills, right? And so pay attention to that. One of the reasons why, if you ever go to the Vancouver Aquarium, sharks are always on the move, because they don't have an operculum to be able to keep on throwing water over their gills and protecting them. They have to have water over their gills by constantly moving. And so this is efficient, but not as efficient as what we're going to see in the bony fishes. So the cartilaginous fishes, a variety of adaptations. Number one would be the jaws. Number two would be the paired appendages. Okay, and so huge evolutionary important features. And this is a male. How do I know? Because these are these claspers that he uses to hold on to the female during mating. Okay? So when you get your fish, what you're going to do is you're going to start down by the anus, and you're going to go all the way up to just below the lower jaw. And it's going to be right in here where we're going to find the heart. And if you don't cut down too deeply, you will see a heart still beating, and you'll never forget it. Okay? And so when we see that, you guys will do a lot of oohing and awing, and you'll see why when we get to that. Again, these are very sharp, brand new blades. So just like don't put your fingers in the middle of it while you're cutting. Okay, and so this is the technique you want to use, and you can feel this guy. He's like sandpaper. If you have sharp nails, you can actually use them to sharpen, dull your nails. You can hear it. You do that on your fish, you won't have that. You can actually feel and see the scales. So as long as you're careful not to cut down, so you can see what I'm doing is I'm kind of slitting up rather, because that way you're not going to cut through stuff. So you can, it's just good practice to get into. And you're already starting to see very large organs appearing. Still a bit frozen. So it's really, oh, he's got a little special treat to share with us in his stomach too. What the hell is that? Wow, we'll just be patient, Tim. Okay, so what do we got here?
Liver.
It's the liver. Why is it so huge in a shark? Come over here. There, get close. What do we got here? The liver and two functions of the liver. One, it has squalene to be able to be floating for buoyancy. So they don't have a swim bladder. So they have an enormous liver. Your liver will be a little wimpy thing in here. It'll be about like this in your fish. In us it's big too, but these guys, it's enormous. 30% of their biomass is liver. And so it's their adaptation to maintain buoyancy. Okay, and so in us, what does our liver do? In perfect Timism. What is that? So guys, on the next lab exam, I'm going to have pins in structures like this. I'm going to ask you for the structure. That better be easy for you. Now you got to know the function. It's big for a couple reasons. We already given you one. What's the other one? What does our liver do? Two functions of the liver. Filtration. There's a quarter of a mark. Keep adding to it. Filtration. Antioxidants. Okay, doing what?
Filters, antioxidants.
Filters, toxins potentially, antioxidants out of the blood. What's the digestive function that you remember from grade 12?
Uses bile salts.
before. Remember, finish it off.
Like emulsifying fats?
Breakdown or emulsification of fats within the intestine. So might we expect a bile duct connecting to their intestine? Look for it. Look for it in your dissection. It's pretty cool when you see it. And there it is, going right to where you want it, the small intestine in this case. What's this cute little green guy? In your guy, it'll be the same thing, associated with the liver. What is it? Very good. Function?
Houses bile salts.
For the breakdown of fat. So would it have its own little tube? There it is, right there, connecting again to the small intestine. Okay? So, piece of cake. So far, so good? What you're going to have up here is the what? The heart. And how many chambers to a fish heart? 2. You look up at the board where Jane's got her writing up there, and you're going to see that we're going to stress this, because that is the biggest set of adaptations coming up for life on land. So they might only have 2 chambers in a fish, 'cause that's all they need. But as soon as you evolve lungs, you better have another chamber. And so pay attention to that when we get to the frog for next week. A little bit of ice. Okay, and so everybody kind of wants to look for the heart down here. On a fish, you want it next to your gills. And there's your gills, find your heart. Okay, and you'll see that what separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity is this membrane here. In us, we call it a diaphragm. In a fish, it's just a membrane. Okay? So that's that. We're going to have, this is a female, so this is a male, these are going to be developing testes. So you're going to look for those in yours. We saw some last lab. We had beautiful female ovaries coming down and beautiful male testes. So we'll find those as a lab, hopefully, when we do our trout. Now, what's unusual? Oh, what is that? Okay, so we got the liver, we got the gallbladder. What's this thing? Always associated with the intestine. It's always red, always the stomach, right below the stomach in all vertebrates, including us. Now, good try. Pancreas is right. We'll get to that. That's it right there. There's the pancreas. Who can give? Well, we're on it, then we'll just do that one. What's the function of the pancreas in us or in a fish? And specifically, it's part of the endocrine system. Diabetics have a problem with it. Is anybody diabetic in this class?
Insulin.
Produces insulin to regulate glucose or blood sugar levels. So everybody's got that. And you can look this up, but it's something that you should know in your own bodies. Apply it to a fish, and you have it. That's the beauty of it. You learn it once. Pancreas does the same thing in all vertebrates. Right? And so we have the liver with all its functions. We have the pancreas with all its functions. Notice the pancreas is associated with the small intestine as well. What's the other function of the pancreas?
Release pancreatic enzymes.
Very good. To break down protein. So you have something to break down the fats, and now you have something to break down the carbohydrates and protein. So very, very important structure, even though it looks so wimpy. Another important structure is the always bright red, and yours it'll be really bright red, attesting to its function, the spleen. Okay, you know your anatomy. Okay, but who can tell me the functions of the spleen? What does your spleen do, Robin? I don't know. See how much you're going to learn when you leave this? You'll know what your own spleen does. Anybody know what the function of your spleen is? And it's about like this. Breaks down something. There's a 0 mark. It's red.
Blood.
Something to do with blood. You're getting to a quarter of a mark.
Hemoglobin?
So it's going to be involved in the storage, the production, and the destruction of red blood cells. It's our red blood cell factory. Think that's important? Yeah, that and our bone marrow is how we produce our red and white blood cells. So, what's the spleen do? Stores, produces, and breaks down red blood cells. And its other huge function is that it also makes white blood cells for immunity. Okay, fighting disease. Fish have to do it too. And so people who suffer from leukemia often get their spleen removed. Why? Because they're getting rid of the cancer-producing white blood cells. But unfortunately, they have a life where they have to live with a lot of kind of drugs because you need your spleen to cope with flus and all that stuff. Okay? So, we're learning a fair amount that you can apply to your own fish, and that's what you want to do. And again, when you get to your frog and your bird, etc. This is a very unusual, what's called the spiral valve. This is their intestine. You can see why I got the name spiral valve, because if you looked inside here, these have arranged, their intestines arranged in spirals. Okay? And so this is the spiral valve intestine. And they also have a cute little structure down here called the rectal gland. Isn't it cute? Okay, and so it's associated with the osmoregulatory function of these animals. You won't see it in your shark, in your fish. The other thing that you are going to see that you're going to be very surprised when you look in your fish is right against the backbone, exactly where your kidneys are, right against your backbone, right at the back there, are two kidneys. Okay, and so when you look at your fish, this thing will be a bright red. And so if we go in through the membrane, you'll see it's getting red. Well, in this case it's not. But you'll see it bright red in yours. People, it's more red down this way. See? Okay, so that's the kidney. What does our kidney do? So if I had a pin through that on a lab exam, which I will, on your fish, what function?
Urinary filtration?
So not bad. So the production of urine, good. No. The adrenal gland on top does, but no, not these. The kidneys involved. Think about what your kidneys do after you have a beer. What do? They work overtime, right? And they're trying to control your osmoregulation. Okay, and so the big function of the kidney, among many, is to filter the blood of toxins and also strictly osmoregulation, right? To control your salt and water balance, maintain homeostasis, yeah? So we waited patiently enough. What the hell shows the advantage of this guy's jaws? Everybody's seen the movie Jaws, and you know they can potentially eat big things. Well, look at what they could get into their mouth. And if you feel gently here, so you don't get cut, you'll see miniature of those jaw you see over there. So wicked, wicked teeth.
Looks like an old.
And so you can imagine that they can get huge prey items in there. And say you don't believe me, well, you can come over here and play with it yourself, or you can open it up. And the last class we had shrimp by the gazillion. Guaranteed this is not a shrimp. Although there are tiny shrimp.
You look at your fingers.
Ooh,
Squid?
you can almost eat that. It's so intact. We won't. But it does give you a feel of what these animals eat. To be able to get so large, look at how many shrimp this guy ate. It's exactly what we eat, that species, called the pink shrimp. And so you'll see this guy was a pig. How many shrimp are in here? And then we're not done.
Whoa.
Now the fish.
Take a look at that. That is one part of the fish.
Did he eat the
So these guys can get away with what we can't get away with. Imagine if we ate like this. So there's the rest of the fish. We can rebuild them.
Rebuild
This ate a whole fish. Right? And it's in the process of being digested, ready to go to the rest of its system. So in life, what are these guys eating?
True.
What phylum?
Arthropoda.
Arthropoda. Subphylum Crustacea. Smalacus. Remember all that? Good. It looks like you could put these and fry them up in garlic, doesn't it? They're pretty intact. But we won't do that. We won't do that. But it gives you a good idea what these guys can eat compared to a lamprey that all it does is suck blood. Right? So if you guys want to come back here and play with them, you can if you want. But what we want to now do is apply this to our fish. And we want to get rolling on that fish now.